Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Receiving Nur Weekly Quran Study. We are studying Surah 46, Surah al-Ahqaf, usually translated as sand dunes. And Sister Yamina will be leading the study. And as usual, you're welcome to join in with your questions and comments. We started the surah last week, so this will be the second session, and we'll continue onwards from ayah 3. Sister Yamina, please. Jazakallah khair.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان فنحمده مصلين على نبيه محمد الذي أرسله رحمة للعالمين وجعل معجزته الكبرى الجامعة برموزها وآياتها وإشاراتها لحقائق الكائنات باقية على مر الدهر إلى يوم الدين وعلى آله عامة وأصحابه كافة. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. So Surah al-Ahqaf, which is Surah 46, which comes right after Surah al-Jathiyah, which we studied together, starts with Hamim, Tanzilul Kitabi min Allahi al-Aziz al-Hakim. Meaning Hamim, the sending down of the book is from God, the Almighty, the Wise. God, the Almighty, who has power over all things and controls everything. And the wise, he is wise, he creates everything with purpose and meaning and harmony and truth and haqq. This God, the Almighty, the Wise, is the one who is sending this book, this message of haqq, this message of truth. But now the question comes, how do we know? How do I confirm the truth of this ayah, that truly the sending of the book is from God? And how do we confirm that God is indeed the Almighty, the Wise? In Surah al-Jathiyah, if you remember, Surah 45, which starts in the same way as Surah al-Ahqaf, the answer was related to the creational signs, the ayat in the world. So Surah al-Jathiyah started Hamim Tanzilul Kitabi min Allahi al-Aziz al-Hakim Inna fi as-samawati wal-ardi la-ayatin lil-mu'minin wa fi khalqikum wa ma yabuthu min dabbatin ayatun liqawmin yuqinun. And it carried on. So Hamim, the sending down of this book, Tanzilul Kitab, of the book, is from God, the Almighty, the Wise. The heavens, in the heavens and as well as on earth, there are certainly ayat, signs, for those who believe. And in your own nature, and in that of all the animals which he scatters over the earth, there are ayat, signs, messages for people who are endowed with certainty. لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. And in the succession of night and day, and in the means of subsistence which God sends down from the skies, giving life thereby to the earth after it had been lifeless, and in the change of the winds, in all this there are ayat for people who use their reason. لِقَوْمٍ آيَاتٌ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ. Those are God's signs, the signs of God, that we convey unto you, setting forth the truth. In what other speech, if not in God and in his ayat, will they then believe? So the answer to our question, how do we confirm the truth of the second ayah, the sending down of this book is from God, the Almighty, the Wise. So we had two points to confirm, that the sending of this of the book is indeed from God, and this God is indeed almighty and wise. And the answer in Surah Al-Jathiyah is that there are signs and evidences in the creation of the heavens and the earth, meaning in the world around us, within us, and that God is indeed almighty and all-wise. We will find the evidence in the creation. But how do we understand? Because if everything is an ayah, everything is a sign, carries messages, fine. But how do we understand the ayat in creation so that we can confirm their message? Through the sending down of the book. It is in the book, in the Quran, that we are given the guidance and the clues and the ways to decipher the ayat, the meanings of the ayats in creation. Through the Quran, we are taught how to read the ayat in the creation. So it's like if we have a treasure map and we read the map and then we follow it. And if it truly leads us to the treasure, we do find the treasure, we open it, we see it, then we can confidently say with confidence that this map is true because I have the treasure in my hands. So in the same way, the Quran is like that map, the map to the treasures of the divine attributes. It is telling us that God is almighty and wise, and that He is the one who is sending, who sends the book, who sends the guidance, who sends the message to us. And it directs us to the signs in creation and shows us how to reflect on their meanings and how they point and indicate the message that we want to confirm. So there is a dynamic interplay between the ayat of the Quran and the ayat of the creation. And it is through the ayat of the Quran that we see and understand how the ayat, the signs in creation, speak of the same message as the ayat in the Quran. And so, and therefore, thereby, they confirm each other. And they are each other's evidence and witness. They bear witness to each other's truth. So when we witness this reality, we can state and confirm actually with confidence, with certainty, that whoever is speaking in the Quran is indeed the almighty and wise creator of the world. He is the one who has everything under control. He is the one who has the power to control and create everything and give existence to everything. At the same time, he is creating with purpose, with meaning, with harmony, with order, with wisdom. That is, he speaks not only through words in the Quran, but also through deeds in his act of creating. And so the creative activity, his creativity, confirms and bears witness to the truth of his speech and revelation revealed in the Quran. So after being invited to reflect on the signs in creation and being warned to the consequences, the dire consequences of ignoring the signs, the ayat, we're told in Surah Al-Jathiyah in ayah 22, وَخَلَقَ اللَّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ بِالْحَقِّ وَلِتُجْزَ كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. For God has created the heavens and the earth with truth, and that every soul shall be rewarded or tujza, recompensed or rewarded for what it has earned, and none shall be wronged. Then in the next surah, in Surah al-Ahqaf, which we are now listening to, inshallah, it picks up from the creation of the heavens and earth with truth, with haqq. So in Surah al-Ahqaf, it starts with Hamim. The sending down of the book is from God the Almighty, the Wise. We have not created the heavens and earth and everything between them except with truth and for an appointed time. Yet those who disbelieve turn away from what they have been warned about. ما خلقنا السماوات والأرض وما بينهما إلا بالحق وأجل مسمى والذين كفروا عما أنذروا معرضون. So again, the answer to the second ayah, the sending down of the book is from God the Almighty, the Wise, is in the creation. Again, it is in the creation. We are told that everything, whatever, we have not created anything in the heavens and earth and everything between them except with truth and appointed term. It means everything in creation, the ayat indicate truth and appointed term. We already know that they are ayat, that everything is an ayah from Surah Al-Jathiyah. But here we are told something. We start from the fact that these ayat have a message of truth. Not only a message of truth, but also, look at them, they all have an appointed term. Meaning the message here is more explicit and more direct. And it's truly, I find it very, very fascinating that the Quran always shows the creation as evidence of its statements. Always, like here, the book is sent from God. God is Almighty, Wise. How do I confirm this? Through witnessing, through shahada. And I bear witness by reflecting on the message that is sent to me through the ayat in the creation. So the maker of everything, the creator of everything knows, because he creates everything, he knows. And he reveals the purpose and the meanings of his creation through the way he creates them, in order to make the truth that we are told about in this ayah, in ayah, the third ayah of Surah Al-Ahqaf. How do we know that truth? How knowing here is not only hearing and understanding, but also seeing it, witnessing it, living it, tasting it, experiencing it, until it becomes haqq al-yaqeen. It becomes, we are certain. This is the truth. This is the purpose of creation. That this message of this Quranic ayah unfolds its myriads of meanings and tastes and shades and within the creation. The ayat in the creation, all of them bear witness to this meaning and reflect it and embody it in different ways. So God creates. Since he creates, he knows, and he knows, he tells us the purpose of his creation in the Quran, as well as revealing it through the way he creates everything, so that the truth is not only known to us as information intellectually, but as a living reality. So God speaks through the Quran and through his creating. So therefore, from one aspect, the creation of the heavens and earth holds the evidence that they are being created with truth, with meaning, with purpose, with might, with wisdom. And from another aspect, that truth in the creation is also evidence that the sending of the book is indeed from God the Almighty, the Wise, the one who creates with meaning and purpose and harmony. And it makes sense. It's only the Almighty and Wise who creates can send the book, can send the guidance, can reveals to us the purpose of this life, the purpose of his creation, that reveals the meaning of life and the purpose of our life as far as we're concerned. That's very important. As we are told in the Quran, أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. Does he not know he who creates? Of course he does. Only he knows, and therefore only he will make us know, will let us know. So we have not created the heavens and the earth and everything between them except with truth and for an appointed term. The guidance is sent, the book is sent by God, the Almighty, Al-Aziz. The Almighty meaning He has power over everything. Everything proceeds from Him alone, and therefore everything returns to Him. Nothing is lasting. Everything has an appointed term, means everything has a beginning and an end. Everything comes from Him and returns from Him. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We are from God, and only to we belong to God, or we are from Him. And unto Him we are in a state of returning. And He is wise. God is Al-Aziz, the Almighty, and He is wise. He's all wise, meaning He creates with haqq, with purpose, with beauty, with harmony, with order, with meaning. And that's a strong evidence to the purpose in creation, which is that everything has a beginning and an end. The fact that everything has a beginning and an end is also an evidence to the purpose in creation. So we see the beauty, we see the order, we see the harmony, and we see that there is purpose. They are not created in vain. They are not created, nothing is created haphazardly. But there is something that seals off that purpose, which is the fact that everything has an appointed term. The fact that everything has a beginning and an end. The fact that everything is transient. Since, how would I say it? Since this world is true, is created according to haqq, to truth and purpose, and since it is also passing, together these two facts are a strong indication, a strong ayah to another lasting realm from which everything proceeds and to which everything is returning. So everything comes from somewhere, shows up momentarily in this world, and leaves. And this cycle of life and death is also a sign that the true purpose of life will unfold in that lasting world where everything is coming from and going. It's a sign that this world is not the end, that this world is not the permanent one, because this world is transient, it is impermanent. So everything is pointing to the world of Akhirah, to the world. And because everything is created with truth, everything indicates that truth, even when they perish, even when they are perishing, when they are leaving, they indicate, for instance, that their maker is eternal and everlasting. And you remember we did reflect a lot on the meaning of everything perishes except His countenance. La ilaha illahu, kullu shay'in haliku illa wajhah. And interestingly, the ayah starts with La ilaha illahu. There's no, how do I know that there is no deity, nothing worth worshipping, nothing worth asking for help, nothing worth giving value to in itself? Because everything is passing and perishing. It means everything is created like myself, except His countenance, except Wajh Allah, which we see, which they indicate, even in their perishing. And we are told in Surah Al-Rahman, كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام. All that is on earth, all that is عليها, on earth or in the heavens, is bound to pass away, but forever will remain your sustainers, وجه ربك, your Rabb's wajh, your sustainers' countenance, full of majesty and glory. So the only thing that remains at the end is wajh Allah. This also means that we will have to answer to the Almighty and Wise in order to fulfill the purpose of creation with wisdom, which requires justice. It means that we are also accountable. There is something beyond this world. And we bear witness to this truth here and now. So we will have to answer to God, the Almighty, the Wise, Al-Aziz, Al-Hakim, in order to fulfill the purpose of creation. Everything is fulfilling that purpose, except human beings. We have free will, and we can choose to surrender to that purpose or to wander away, to stray away from it. And when we stray away from it, we are also spoiling the balance, spoiling the wisdom, spoiling, and that the consequence is injustice. So we are accountable for fulfilling the purpose of our life. This is very important. It's not up to us. There is a consequence. There are benefits and there are results and in the lasting akhirah. And when we do live with that awareness that we are accountable for fulfilling the purpose of our life and do our best to do so, and when we don't, or if we maybe not intentionally, but live with unawareness, mindlessly, then there are very serious consequences for living without purpose, without true lasting purpose, because it may seem to us that we have purposes, but if our purposes do not connect to akhirah, do not connect to eternity, then we are doomed, because they will last at most as up to the door of the grave. And so we are made to realize and understand this truth through our creation. Our own creation is also speaking of this reality. We feel miserable, for instance, when we don't live in accordance with purpose. We have a conscience. We regret things. We feel guilty about things. All these emotions are signs that we have not been created in vain to live a purposeless life haphazardly as we see fit, but in accordance to divine guidance. Why in accordance to divine guidance? Because whoever creates us, is creating us and is sustaining our life, he alone knows what is best for us, what is the best way to fulfill our purpose. If I think that I can find my purpose without the help of divine guidance, I am deluded, and I'm just, it's just a delusion. Because He's the one who gives us life, He's the one who sustains us in life, and our return is to Him. We don't even know when we will die. We die by divine, ajal? By divine decree, let's say. And our return is unto our Rabb. As we are told in Surah Hud, ayah 39, where we are told, huwa rabbukum wa ilayhi turja'un. He is your Rabb, your sustainer, and unto Him you are returning. And in Surah Yunus, Surah 10, ayah 56, we are told, huwa yuhyi wa yumit wa ilayhi turja'un. This is repeated actually in many places in the Quran. He alone is the one who grants life and deals death, and therefore unto Him you all must return. His life comes from, your life came from Him. He gives you life and sustains it and then takes it back. It means you are going back there. And then we are taught, how can you refuse to acknowledge God, seeing that you were lifeless and he gave you life, and that he will cause you to die, and then he will bring you again to life, whereupon unto him you will be brought back. كيف تكفرون بالله وكنتم أمواتا فأحياكم ثم يميتكم ثم يحييكم ثم إليه ترجعون. And we are told in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 281, واتقوا يوما ترجعون فيه إلى الله ثم توفى كل نفس ما كسبت وهم لا يظلمون. And be conscious of the day on which you shall be brought back unto God. You are returning, you will return to God. Whereupon every human being shall be repaid in full for what he has earned, and none shall be wronged. If there is a beginning and an end, it means we are coming from somewhere and going somewhere. And if we are coming from somewhere and going somewhere, and if in this passing transient life, temporary life, everything we feel it, purposelessness make people commit suicide sometimes, or be totally miserable and depressed. And so we are creatures that can only, like we we can only survive with breathing or with air, because we breathe. We survive and thrive. The more meaning and purpose, the more we thrive. And we totally thrive when that meaning and purpose is lasting. So all these things are related. And we want to be, inshallah, among those who we are told الذين يظنون أنهم ملاقو ربهم وأنهم إليه راجعون. Those who know with certainty that they shall meet their sustainer, their Rabb, and that unto him they are returning. This is in Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah 2, Ayah 46. And there is the famous ayah that we repeat whenever something happens, which is in Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah 2, Ayah 156. It says, الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Truly, unto God we belong, only unto God we belong, and truly unto him we are returning. So in the third ayah of Surah al-Ahqaf, we are taught we have not created the heavens and the earth and everything between them. It means everything you can think of, imagine, everything, every event, every emotion, every feeling, except with truth and for an appointed term. ما خلقنا السماوات والأرض وما بينهما إلا بالحق وأجل مسمى. So we understand that the truthfulness of this world bears testimony to the resurrection and to Akhirah. Otherwise, the creation of this world and the truthfulness and order and purpose and meanings it bears witness to right here now would all have been in vain. If there is no Akhirah, it would be in vain, because not only it will be in vain, they would actually turn into meaninglessness and purposelessness. If you have it takes you years for such a beautiful project, and like a factory that's going, or a school, you build a school that's going to and more than the school is the curriculum to educate all this very, let's say, useful youth and conscious, and they are going to help build society. And then you say, okay, we built and all the curriculum and everything is ready. Let's destroy it all. It becomes utter meaninglessness and utter purposelessness. What was the whole thing in following purpose and meaning? And it is totally, utterly against the human fitrah. It's totally in contradiction with our fitrah. And that's why if there is no lasting purpose, then if it means if there is no akhirah, if there is no day of judgment, that in itself would constitute great injustice and wrong. And so we know, when we reflect within ourselves, we find all the indications, all the ayat that confirm the truthfulness, that the truthfulness and the purpose and meaning and order and harmony that we witness now in the world, it is lasting. And the fact that every single thing in itself, it has a beginning and an end, is also a sign to that everlasting world of akhirah. And alhamdulillah, because if there were no akhirah, there would be no retribution for injustice and oppression. Then that in itself would be great injustice. And when the more we witness the truth of akhirah and the truth of the day of judgment, the more actually the heart expands. We feel relieved. I'll come back later why sometimes we don't feel relieved. We feel like it's a burden, because we are not focused on the great goodness, the great rahmah that the world of akhirah opens up to us, but we are stuck in the responsibility, stuck in, but if in order to confirm and live with the awareness of akhirah, I have to give up my selfish, foolish desires and unchecked beliefs about life, about what life is about my purpose and what's good and what's bad and what's happiness and what's success and all that. And you can see that's a vicious circle, because it's not based on haqq. I am not focused on the reality. I am focused on what I would have to give up, what in my illusion, I think I will have to give up. But actually, if or when I am in that state of confirming and witnessing the reality of this world, bearing witness to akhirah and indicating it, I would be so ecstatic, so happy, so grateful. Then I will realize that all those worries that I had were just mere illusion, because they were based on a false perception of the world. They were based on false assumption of what the reality is. Now, this expression, إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ وَأَجَلٍ مُسَمَّى, the whole thing actually, is also, we find it in Surah Al-Rum, which is Surah 30. And there, the relationship with Akhirah, here also in Surah Ayah 4 and 5. But whenever this expression comes, there is direct reference to Akhirah. And this itself is a clue, a sign that the fact that everything is created with truth and purpose and meaning, and with an appointed term, is related to Akhirah. It means if I want to live with the awareness, with the mindfulness of Akhirah here and now, first, what do I have to do? I have to be mindful and looking around me and witnessing how everything is created with purpose, and how that purpose is is related to something beyond. It can't be order and purpose of the things themselves, and that's it. I don't move. Lots of people do that. People who have nothing to do with religion, they may be marveling at at the beauty in the world, at how everything is orderly, but they never go beyond the order to the source of the order, to the orderer, beyond the beauty to the creator of the beauty, beyond the life and the giving of life to the giver of life. In order to do that, we have to have the second part, which is وَأَجَلٍ مُسَمَّى. Everything has a beginning and an end. Everything is passing and transient. And that transience is the mirror to everlastingness, is the mirror to the realm of Akhirah. And so in Surah Al-Rum, Surah 30, ayah 7 to 9, we are told, they know only the outer surface of the world's life, and they are utterly unaware of Akhirah. Have they not reflected within themselves? God has not created the heavens and the earth and all that is between them, except with truth and for an appointed term. And yet, behold, many people are in denial regarding their meeting with their Rabb, with their sustainer. Have they then never journeyed around the earth and beheld what happened in the end to those who lived before their time? They were greater in power, and they left a stronger impact on the earth and built up even better than these. And to them came their messengers with all evidence of the truth. And so it was not God who wronged them, but it was they who wronged themselves. So can you see in this, in ayah 8, we are told the same thing, that God has not created any single thing except with truth and for an appointed term. Yet, subhanallah, many people, not some people, كثيرا من الناس بلقاء ربهم لكافرون. They live as though they are not going to meet, they are not meeting their Rabb, neither here nor ever. It does not mean that they deny God, but they live as though they are not meeting their Rabb. And the next ayah says, haven't you seen, like, lots of people, many civilizations, generations lived before you, and they left all these great monuments and everything. And so what? At the end, however powerful they thought they were, at the end, they left. So we are given evidence from the creation. Second, we are told they also had messengers came to them with all evidence of the truth. It reminds me, the ayah itself is from the messenger, is from God, that the two come together. We are sending you the evidences, the signs, the message through speech, through words in the Quran, through the messengers, and through the creation. How come you still are deluded? How come you still live in denial of this reality? Then, if anything happens to you, it is not God who wronged them, but it was they who wronged themselves. فَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيَظْلِمَهُمْ وَلَكِنْ كَانُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ يَظْلِمُونَ. So back to Surah Al-Kahf. After we are told that we have not created the heavens and earth and everything between them except with truth and for an appointed term, then we are told, yet those who disbelieve turn away from what they have been warned about. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا عَمَّا أُنذِرُوا مُعْرِضُونَ. That is, we're recurrently, again and again, warned of the day of judgment in the Quran. And we are also reminded of that reality, the day of judgment, the reality of the Day of Judgment, from within the creation, through the fact that everything is created with truth and purpose, as well as through the fact that everything is passing and transient. Because our biggest, actually the second one is key, because often we see the beauty, we see the purpose, we see the order and everything. That's why we become attached to the world. That's why we become enamored with the world. That's why we want more of the world, because it's so beautiful, because it's so good. However, if we don't have the other half, which is that everything has been created with an appointed term, everything has an end, everything is passing and transient, then we don't get the balance, and we forget that there is an end. We know that there is an end. We know that we are going to die. However, it does not feel like it at all. It feels like, yeah, okay, I know that. But right now, I'm living as though death did not exist, as though death will never come to me, as though death will always come later, not tomorrow, not next year, I don't know, in some unpredictable, very far future. Like, subhanallah, utter ghafla.
Sister Yamina, I think we actually mean deep down it will never come.
Yeah, that's the trick. That's the trick, because we don't want to. We cannot deny. It's not like we don't want to deny. It is undeniable. We know it is a law of creation that everything is passing, and so the only way we can live with that is ignoring it, is by deferring it, postponing it, and doing like the ostrich, putting our head into the sand of ghafla, and it seems as though there is no death, and death not only the day I will die, but the fact that everything is passing, that I'm growing, getting older, that everything is changing, that the world is impermanent. My life, everything around me is impermanent. So that is a very crucial area that points and reminds us of the reality of Akhirah, and therefore of the Day of Judgment, that everything perishes except what looks to God's countenance, what looks to the truth. So can you see now that everything perishes, everything goes, but there is something that remains. What is it that remains? The ayah, the essence of the ayah, the message of the ayah that looks to God, God's name, to Akhirah, to everlastingness. We see the mightiness, we see the wisdom, we see the compassion, we live it, we taste it, and we confirm it, and it is there. And the fact that actually everything passes even reconfirms more and more that those attributes do not belong here. They are reflected from another realm. They are coming and going back to another realm. So the fact that these two are together, that بالحق وأجل مسمى, together, is very, very meaningful. They are like the two sides of the medallion. The more we focus on the fact that everything perishes together with, because then the first thing we will see won't be the perishing, it will be the purpose and the beauty and the meaning. But when we find or notice the perishing within it, then that order and purpose and everything starts pointing to its real, true owner. It does not belong. If a beautiful flower wilts and dies and dries away, it's not pretty anymore. It is saying with lisan al-hal, by its disposition, the way it is being created, that beauty that you saw before, it was not mine. It is my Creator's. I am created. I was created with beauty. Now I am created, wilted, and dry. And the new bud comes in, and the beauty carries on, and it's speaking. And together, in that cycle of death and life, they speak of akhirah, they speak of the eternal realm. And so to focus and interact with the world with this awareness is key. It's very important. And if when we don't, and we don't, despite all this intricate, everything is made easy for us to remember. Everything is made easy to keep us awake. Everything is made easy to remind us, and not only remind us, but also reward us and make us ecstatic about this way of living, this way of perceiving the world. But if we do not choose to live that way, and despite all this, despite this mutually supportive testimony of the Quranic ayat and the creational ayat, despite the supporting testimony of the order in the universe and the fact that it is transient and passing, and therefore speaking to us about akhirah, about eternity, about the day of judgment, still we are told, many people, many of us, do not heed these messages, these warnings, and they go about living their life as they see fit. Like, how is this possible? Before, in front of the overwhelming indications and evidences and ayat presented to us in the universe, all around us, within us, and on top of that, in the Quran. Just in case we didn't see, in the Quran it's repeated, because we could have been told once, this is what they all mean. No, it's repeated again and again in different ways, so to fit our different moods and different needs, and with lots of patience, lots of generosity, lots of compassion. How does this happen? Because these people are mu'ridun. And note here that mu'ridun is a present participle. So it is active, it's dynamic. It's not something, it's not their ethic and title of them. No, it's something that a state of being. They turn away, they avert, they ignore. They ignore the ayat, they ignore the messages of the ayat. They do not stop to reflect on the meaning of the signs, of what's going on in their life then, because we may not know that they are called sign, it doesn't matter, but we feel that what's going on is meaningful. However, when we are not focused on the meaning, that meaning remains in the background, far away. We know, we feel it, but we don't give it importance. The more we focus on that meaning, the more we focus on listening to the signs speaking to us about akhirah, about God, about the divine names, the more it becomes, that voice will become clear. It's like when we are sitting in a place, like in a public place, and speaking to someone, because we are focused on listening to our friend, we hear them, and eventually all the noises around us, they don't disturb us anymore. And that is the power of intention, focusing on what we intentionally choose to. And so here they do exactly the opposite, mu'ridun. They are totally, they ignore what's going on. So if we don't stop, if they, let's say they don't stop to reflect on the meaning of the signs, they will never be able to consider them as meaningful messages, as signs from God. And why would we turn away from the signs of creation? That actually they are the key, the evidences that enable us to understand the truth and confirm the message of the Quran. Why do we read the Quran on its own and we don't often feel the need to read it together with the signs as it is telling us to read it. How come? My humble, how do you say, observation, not only around me, but in my own personal experience, is because we are unwilling to let go of pursuing our desires, what we think our goals in life are. Or sometimes they could be something lofty, like a goal in life, and sometimes it could be something foolish that we are not even aware of. We turn away from the truth because it seems to hinder our fantasy of what our life should be. We have either conscious, this is what I'll have a great life and this is how it should be, or I am, how do you say, not guided, but moved by desires and beliefs that I have never checked and questioned. And this is how I think life should be without even realizing. Sometimes it's something good, sometimes it's something that makes me miserable. But the fact is that I never questioned it. And the message of this ayah applies to all of us, not only those who disbelieve, الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, therefore the kafirun out there. No, it's speaking to me. They don't, al-kafirun, they don't read this. The ayah is speaking about them as a state of being out there. So I look at them and then look at myself. Am I doing the same thing? And often we will find that we are doing it's not our way of life, maybe, but in some instances, in some situation, I may well be behaving in that way. There is a hadith in both Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. And we are told in that hadith that Rasul ﷺ, the messenger of God, peace and peace be upon him, led the morning prayer at Hudaybiyah. And while there were marked some rainfall, it rained during the night, and after Fajr prayer, the Prophet ﷺ turned towards the people and he asked them, do you know what your Lord, what your Rabb has said? And they answered, God and his messengers know best. This is the adab of the Sahaba. They won't start assuming they know like we do. They listen. They said, God and his messengers know best. So the Prophet ﷺ said, God said, some of my servants entered the morning as believers in me and others as disbelievers. So this is God speaking. قال أصبح من عبادي مؤمن بي وكافر. The word is used. The word disbeliever here is kafir. How come? These are people who were praying with the Prophet ﷺ. They were praying Fajr prayer. And he explains, whoever said we have been given rain due to the favor and mercy of God, he is a believer in me and a disbeliever in the power of the stars. And whoever said we have been given rain due to the rising of this or that star, he has disbelieved in me, meaning God is speaking here, and he has put his faith in the stars. It means that in this particular instance, the attitude of some people was that of kufr. It doesn't mean that they became kafir, full stop, they would never come back to Iman, but that attitude was an attitude of kufr. They failed to see that rain can only be the gift of the Almighty, the all-wise, the merciful provider, the all-sustainer of all things. And instead, they perceived the rain as a result of some created causes. In their case, it was the stars. In our case, it's the so-called life cycle of rain, for instance. It rains because of this, because of that, because it was hot, because water evaporated, whatever it is. Yes, water does evaporate, but evaporation does not create rain. The life cycle of rain is what we perceive, what we witness. It's the way rain is given to us. It does not create the rain. It's only the way rain is being sent to us. Just like water does not give life, yet God creates everything with lifeless water. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. And that lifeless water, because it is employed in the giving of life to everything, becomes an ayah. Through that, how can lifeless water enter anything and knows how to act in everything and becomes, it can't be God itself. If it were the source of life, it would be God, but it is insane and senseless because it itself does not have life. It itself has no knowledge, no life, no power, nothing. And therefore it acts as an ayah. It speaks of God. It speaks of God being the giver of life. So you see here, what is important is there are only two ways. Either we perceive things as the signs that they truly are, the signs that speak of Akhirah, the signs to speak to God and His beautiful divine names, or we perceive them in our ghafla, in our unquestioningness, in our mindlessness, as happening with no lasting purpose, therefore no connection to Akhirah, as related as water is doing it, as the rain is, it's raining because of the cycle of rain, etc., which are just names that we put on things. And so the signs bear witness to the truth here and now and forever in Akhirah. But when we are unconscious of that, we do not see that. So if and when we choose to let go of our illusion that we know what's going in the world, when we actually have no idea about the signs, when we choose to let go of our illusion that we know how to live and enjoy our life, we know what to do with our life. It's our life, and I know it's all planned. I don't even plan it for myself. I'm so sure I plan it for my kids as well. And our foolish desire to pursue those passing impermanent joys and successes, or whatever we may call them, things that give me, that's satisfy me when I am unaware. Because if someone, when I think I'm satisfied and happy, and someone next to me dies, suddenly my whole world shatters. Why? Because it was an illusory world. It was an impermanent joy. Deep down, I know that. But I keep forgetting it because it's convenient. But when we choose to let go of that illusion, then we become ready to listen to the divine message of the Quran. We become ready because it does not mean that we are actually listening. We become willing to reflect within ourselves about the meanings of our life events, and then we start witnessing that truly nothing happens in vain. And we start seeing how everything within and within us and within the world points to the divine countenance, point to the divine eternal names of God and to Akhirah. And then only we will see how everything bears witness to their almighty and wise God, to our compassionate Rabb. We will start living with ihsan, in the presence of the divine, because everything around us will only remind us of Him. Nothing will hinder our remembrance, our mindfulness. Everything will become fuel, will help us actually, rather than be an obstacle. Then only wisdom is bestowed upon us, because wisdom and knowledge is given to the muhsins. If you remember in Surah Yusuf alayhi salam, we were told when Yusuf alayhi salam reached adulthood, we bestowed upon him wisdom as well as knowledge, for thus do we reward the muhsinin. وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And with this wisdom and knowledge, he could interpret events, ta'wil al-ahadith. Then he could understand truly what's going on. He was given that deep wisdom, that knowledge, to understand and interpret what's going on, the meaning of what's going on. So we see that ihsan comes first, not after we understand everything clearly. Then we become ready to receive and comprehend the wisdom, because if it comes before ihsan, even if the wisdom and knowledge is given, it won't make an impact on us, because this wisdom is not something that you learn like a problem of maths. It's something that you feel, that you live. It's like sadness, happiness. You have to live it. It's not something you read about. It's not something you hear about only. So ihsan is when we live with the certainty that everything is meaningful. We know it's meaningful. We don't know, we may not know the specific meaning, but obviously it's meaningful. It's like when we see people speaking in a foreign language, a language that we don't understand. We can see by looking at them that, for instance, they are serious, they're talking about something very meaningful, very serious, although we don't understand what they are saying. So when we live with that awareness that everything is an ayah, even when we don't get what the meanings are, then it becomes clear to those who are willing to believe and surrender that nothing is created in vain, that everything is created with truth, with haqq. And when we are willing to take that step of faith, then the doors of the unseen start opening onto us, start being revealed onto us. But here is something, bi'idhnillah, something very important is going on here. In this process, evidence alone is not sufficient. There needs to be that willingness. I'm saying when we are willing to let go, when we are willing to believe, when we are willing to surrender, that willingness to surrender is a choice and a choice to live by the divine guidance. It's not like I surrender, okay, I understood, and I go and do whatever I want. Then you didn't understand. Then I didn't understand. I am just, how do you say? Pretending, or I think I did it, but it's not truly my reality. And if we refuse to let go of our foolish desires, foolish in the sense that it doesn't go beyond the grave, and to surrender to reality, then we'd have to face the consequences. The consequences of when we go to Akhirah, we will find nothing. But I invested lots of things. No, but there is no, your investment was all done. You made a big mistake. You multiplied everything with 0 in your account. So you'll find 0. What a great shock. What a great waste of life, waste of energy, waste of effort. And sometimes those desires could be something like doing something good for others, for our family, for ourselves. Sometimes it's just plain foolishness. Sometimes it's not even desires, it's just petty pleasures, like what comes to my mind, for instance, seeking attention in unhealthy ways. We need attention. But if we are a grown-up adult and seeking attention in the same way as a small child, something is wrong here. It means that's a sign that we've been living unconsciously, mindlessly. And lots of people cannot heal, for instance, because they unconsciously use their sickness to keep everyone around them under control. They're stuck in some patterns for the sake of some little attention that people around them give them grudgingly, because they are resentful, because they feel manipulated. And those people do not realize that if they leave their selfish habits, their selfish unconscious patterns, and they don't have to be conscious of it, if they leave their selfishness and commit to follow the divine guidance, they will be guided into getting rid of those getting rid and releasing all those patterns that don't serve them, that don't serve us, that are like burdens on us. And so they don't know that if they release, if they let go of those selfish habits, their selfish way of being that they are used to, that are never questioned, they'll start enjoying health, and we'll have an opportunity to know God as the healer. And knowing God as the healer meaning knowing healing and the beauty of healing in this world and in the next, and healing not only physically but spiritually, emotionally, and to be grateful to Him instead of complaining from sickness. And then they can also get genuine attention and love from others by loving others and serving others instead of trying to get small attention by force, like grabbing selfishly some attention. And when we get that genuine attention, that genuine love, genuine friends, genuine connection with others, when it is not done selfishly, when we are aware of the beauty of that love and attention and the transience of that love and attention, and we wake up to its source, then all those interactions becomes ayat and indications of the pleasures of paradise and of the pleasures of the divine names like al-Wadud, the loving, the kind, the compassionate, the merciful. But the real underlying problem is that these people are looking for their own way to happiness. They figured out, whether through unhealthy patterns of sickness or through other seemingly maybe healthy ways, some people are serving others and truly they are getting love and friendship, but they are not going beyond that to the dimension of akhirah. If it is not related to God and to akhirah, then it is passing. And if it is passing, because we know that deep down, we know it right now, it spoils the true joy, the true peace of heart. And that is why often people, while claiming or pretending to seek happiness, they're actually averting, like it says in the ayah, the reality that everything is passing and transient. Because this fact is very painful to those of us, or to us when we don't know that everything is a sign, that the passing and the pain in the passing is an ayah to everlasting akhirah. It is an ayah that is attracting our attention to beyond the passing thing. And then the pain fulfills its aim and it transforms into joy of connecting with God, into the ecstasy of being abd, of ubudiyah, of gratitude to the eternal Rabb. So if they knew, they'd live without knowing, with awareness of akhirah, because that's what we all seek. the awareness of the day of judgment, and their choices in life would be greatly different. And it will be easy, because it seems to us that to live with the divine guidance and with the awareness of akhirah 24/7 is hard. It's only hard because we are not there. When we are there, it is gifted onto us. We just need to make that choice. We just need to make that step towards haqq. And as we are told in the Qudsi Hadith, God comes running towards us. And in the next ayah, we are told, say, have you seen, it means have you considered what you invoke instead of God? Show me what they have created of the earth. Or have they any share in the heavens? Bring me a book before this. Or remember, we were given, God has sent this book, so bring me a book. Or some vestige of knowledge in support of what you say, if what you claim is true. استعيذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. قل أرأيتم ما تدعون من دون الله أروني ماذا خلقوا من الأرض أم لهم شرك في السماوات ائتوني بكتاب من قبل هذا أو أثارة من علم إن كنتم صادقين. So the assignment for next week, inshallah, and it carries on actually, it says وَمَنْ أَضَلُّ مِمَّنْ يَدْعُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ مَنْ لَا يَسْتَجِيبُ لَهُ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ وَهُمْ عَنْ دُعَائِهِمْ غَافِلُونَ. And who could be further astray than the one who invokes instead of God? He invokes things that will not respond to him until the day of resurrection. And they are unaware of his invocation. They don't know him. They can't answer him. Who can be more astray? Who can be more foolish? So the assignment is to reflect on ayah 4 and 5. And when I say reflect, I don't mean trying to understand. Rather, read it a few times and just listen. What comes to your heart? What is this telling me? And in order to help the ayat unfold, to help with our reflection, my questions to you would be, stop and think. Are we invoking things besides God, as we are told in this ayah? What does it mean? It means, does it feel to us as though things themselves are giving us results? The food itself is filling my stomach. My money is making things for me. My friends is like when I'm bored or something, it's my friends who is taking care of me. The medicine is what's fulfilling my needs. Does it feel to us as though things themselves are fulfilling our needs? That's what it means, invoking things besides God. Then let's ask ourselves, what have they created of the earth? If it seems like medicine is, but we say, but without medicine, I don't feel good. This medicine, it's very good for me. Yes, but the alternative is not no medicine. The teaching of the Quran is that the medicine, the fact that it is unconscious, powerless, something created, and through it, by means of it, you are giving healing, that interaction is the ayah. Because otherwise, it means we don't know the healer. We don't know God as the healer. We are only imitating. We are only repeating what we heard. The only way to know and experience and taste and confirm and bear witness that God is indeed the healer is through taking medicine or taking something. Medicine doesn't have to be medicine. Sometimes water can be medicine. Taking something and subhanallah, I'm giving health. So I invite all of us to reflect on the message of ayah 4 and 5, and especially about, are we invoking things besides God? What have they created of the earth? سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. Thank you.
Thank you. Jazakumullah khair, Sister Yamina. Inshallah, everyone of us was able to take notes of the homework. It is really an invitation to be more aware of the way we treat our what is around us, and inshallah we can take the time to reflect and then question our placing our hopes and fears onto things themselves. We can be first mindful of it and then question it. Can they really create anything? Jazakallah khair again, Sister Yamina. At this time, is there anybody who would like to offer a comment or ask a question? We have a little bit more time.
Jazakallah khair, Yamina. The dichotomy that becomes always the case is that your mind knows that there is akhirah, that everything is transient, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is behind the rizq and behind the protection and behind all the things that we are looking for or needing. But then you realize that you don't really believe that in your heart when you see how much you worry in every step of everything that you believe will take you away from those things that you value, whether it's safety or any of the things. Safety is a big one for me. So then that panic or that severe anxiety is the only way that you know that you have a shirk in your heart. Without it, everything you believe in tells you that there's no shirk, that God is the one who's khayru hafidhan, He is your protector, but that anxiety usually tells me that it's not true. The question is, how do you get rid of it, and how what you know in your mind becomes what you feel in your heart.
When I said this is very important, that step that we take, that choice, like to make a decision that I am going to surrender, then I can either surrender to the fear and live in a state of panic, or I remember and I say, astaghfirullah, this fear is also here. I can take it as an opportunity, as a reminder that a red light, you're going astray. And I say, alhamdulillah, that I was reminded, because being astray doesn't feel good. And so I say, I heard the fear and I got the message, and I am willing to make that decision, even when in the beginning, because it's a habit of what we are used to being in that way, this fear may still be there. But believe me, the conscious I is above the fear, and it can decide. I can decide to make tawakkul, to trust despite the fear. And the moment I make that decision mindfully, consciously, making the niyyah, intentionally, the fear starts getting smaller and smaller. Just like I was saying before, what we focus on grows, and what we take our attention away from becomes like even if it's there, it's in the background, it does not affect my life as much until it becomes not my way of being anymore, because it's a habit and it takes a certain time to develop new habits of ihsan, new habits of tawakkul, new habits of trusting in God's and in His taqdir. It doesn't mean that I don't take any, if there is something to do, that fear may be a reminder that I'm not doing what I should be doing. But after doing my best, I do not surrender to the fear. Because I know that it is created. And sometimes it is telling me something about the reality, and sometimes it is a false alert, because it is actually a sign to my false beliefs about life. For instance, whatever is not under my control, I have to fear it. No, because if it's not under my control, it doesn't mean that it is not under control. It is under God's control. So I let go and trust. And the more I do that, I make that decision intentionally, the more that fear will start shrinking. But usually what we do is we start talking. We say, yes, but what if this happened, that happened? Because we are used to. It's a habit, it's a bad habit. Okay, I'll tell myself, astaghfirullah, stop. What if everything will be okay? And even, I don't know, I don't care about the outcome in terms of forms, I don't know. But I know one thing, is that my Rabb is Rahim. He's Qadir. He has power over everything. So I surrender to my Rabb. The intention is very important. It's the key there. That's what I'm saying. All these things will only make sense when I take that step. We call it a step of leap of faith, but it's really a leap of surrender, primarily. A leap of surrender meaning, yes, it looks bad to me, it looks like that, but it is created, and whatever is created, yes, it is always the best. My reaction to it is not the best. I need to stop and respond with ihsan, but I need to say yes, yes. And the best way is not to wait for moments of crisis, is to get ready in moments of non-crisis, when everything is okay, saying yes, alhamdulillah, yes, for what seems good and what seems bad, what seems good and what seems alhamdulillah wa shukru laka. And I keep forgetting that everything is a miracle from you, astaghfirullah. And the more we live with this in times of crisis, subhanallah, God sends all the sabr and the patience and to help. Thank you.
جزاك الله خير يمينة. ربنا يكرمك.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
I just wanted to say that, throughout my life, I've found since I took my Shahada, and when I did, I was 25, I believe. And I've had things happen to me in my life that really humbled me, and I knew that I wasn't in control. And I feel every time there's a death, whether I know the person or not, I always say to my kids and to myself, this is a sign that we're here one day and we could be gone tomorrow. So we're supposed to, as Muslims, if I have the correct understanding, that whenever someone dies, it's a reminder. We have to be so conscious and realize that life is that valuable that, that you have to treasure it, because you can be gone tomorrow. So, I just feel like that's an opportunity for us as, striving Muslims to keep, that before us, and that's one of the gifts that Allah gives us, that helps us to stay focused and see that we're not in control of anything.
Yeah, exactly.
We really aren't.
And every evening when it's getting dark, it's again the day ends. It's again a reminder. Alhamdulillah. Yes, true. Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair for the comments. There are no other comments or questions. Let's bring tonight's session to a close. Inshallah, we'll continue next week. And please remember the homework.